All right, so we're just gonna run through a little recap, right, of what we saw this morning, and I'll get this posted for everybody. So, how do we start like today out? When I was looking in pre-market prep, we'll just go one to the other to the other. So, looking at pre-market prep for NQ, you can see how we had been ranging, right, on the daily chart. On the daily chart, we wicked through the 20 EMA yesterday. Now, initially when we bounced, the 20 hadn't pulled up like it did, and pulled up considerably. So it was like a very close bounce, similar to how these look, but wick down through the 20. It breaks, Monday's low, gets bought up, right? And so following that, it got bought up. In the overnight session, if you look at New York sessions low to high, we just barely tapped the 50 fib here, held the golden zone, and then it pushed, right? Off of the open, definitely threw people off, but you'll see when we look at all three of them, pushes down, CBC flips short, but they're not able to close under VWAP. You're getting buying under VWAP and under the and off the London Orb high. So you see that they're still trying to hold the higher lows here, and oftentimes this is a good indication or a good example. Sorry, this is a good example of where wicks do the damage, but the bodies tell the story. So for 30 minutes, we were wicking through VWAP, but we're not able to close below it, and also not able to close through this 3450 cloud. And I say many times, I really don't like taking short in between here. It's much better when they cross over. So like this, I call this like the Black River, right? Because it does look like a river between two shores. You see that just the wicks doing the damage, right? Wicks stopping out people who have their stops just below this swing low, right? Anybody who went long here off of this VWAP probably put their stop there. People are getting taken out, and they were just churning through orders here, picking up buyers, and there we go, right? And then this was your first CBC flip short, but it's just the first one into the EMAs after the big move, still over previous day high. It closes really just like very close to where previous day high was. Supply right on the EMAs, and then now we're consolidating, probably just waiting for the rest of the Fed speakers. You got 10-year bond auction at 1.2, right? ES, let's see, similar story, right? Go to the daily first. So ES on the daily. ES on the daily did the exact same thing, wick through the 20 EMA, right? Still looks like very bullish. It's hitting the all-time high right here now again. So, we just hit this, came down, and technically speaking, you never had a CBC flip short, right? You've been CBC long since here. So overall in the structure, we're still bullish because no bearish candle has been able to close below the prior candles. Even though we did have some bearish days, not bearish overall. When you get back onto that 10-minute chart, right? Like what did we see? After that 10-minute 20, I'm sorry, the daily 20 EMA bounce, you hold the higher low here. If we look at the New York session, low to high, holds the golden zone as well. 10-minute 200 EMA, everything is all signs point to bullish. Wicks down to VWAP, bounces off of VWAP, ES VWAP. My personal experience, opinion is much more reliable, tradable than NQs. Yes, just lead in general, but ES starts to lead. NQ was a little bit slow. Remember, after the first 30 minutes, it was still wicking through its VWAP. Starts to follow. Very close to all-time high. If we combine that with looking VIX, right? Here's your hourly 34 cloud. Without that on there, I had this area that I was watching for retest, which we haven't got down to. Right? But anytime we're moving down, it is bullish for the market. You can see that we did have a gap up, followed by a gap down. That gap down was mostly respected, right off of, try to push up a little bit, fails in the EMA clouds, push down, rejects off of the opening print yesterday, right, which is where that gap ends, rejects, pushes down, and ultimately has a very small gap up today, which fails almost right away. Also yesterday's or blow, right? So you can see the confluence there for the levels, and it just starts to drop. And it's starting to drop, even though ES was pulling back, things were printed in this. It's CBC flip short. It was extra confidence. Basically, sorry, it's basically been long bias, right? CBC short on VIX is long bias, just with the exception of this one right here, which is closing into the orb low, which really didn't show you any sense of strength. Barely a flip. Okay, it fades, right? It's continue. That's it, sort of. That's the recap. I would also like to add MetaTrade, which grossly disappointing. I talked about Meta being on the daily chart, being inside day yesterday versus Monday, inside day, and I break one. I talked about like watching for a FOBO. You know, we're likely to go down to break the other side. That's exactly what happened. We opened up right above this. Contracts weren't loading, and it knifed, and we were over high, clear out the high. Now we have an out. But yeah, that's it.